Bless your heart. You know what? It means so much in your neighborhood, you know? It means so much. Oh, bless his heart. Oh, it really is. Well, you know, when he's someone who's of the people is a great thing, right? Okay, very good. Oh boy. Okay. It is. Sorry, I'm a little distracted, but I'm happy about that. Oh, seriously, come on now. Okay, when the pastor goes on today, please put me on mute, okay? Thank you. No, but what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making a few copies, so I'm going to need to be muted while he is on. Okay. All right, here we are. Here we go. Oh, whew. Boy, oh boy. Okay. All right, let's have. Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It is Monday, August 28th, 2023. It is a joy to be with you today. It's the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Of course, that is so many people remember the iconic I Have a Dream speech, but that was not the meat of his speech. That was really the end of his speech. The bulk of his speech dealt with what America owed Black people. And we need to go into that speech. We won't do it today, but we're going to go into it so that people can understand that he said, you have bounced your check to us. He said that in his speech. And everyone wants to deal with the dream. It's not about him and his four children and his wife walking through uh, parks and because we're free to. That's lovely. That was part of the struggle. But he saw the structural inequalities in America and wanted those addressed. And it specifically, he wanted to look at, if you will, reparations to Black people, restoration to Black people, the people who built this country. So the 60th anniversary, of course, John Lewis, Whitney Young, James Farmer, Bayard Rustin, A. Philip Randolph, and we can go on and on and on and on. Dorothy Height, Rosa Parks, Mahalia Jackson, so many of the icons of our struggle were there. Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier, and on and on. Charlton Heston was there. Marlon Brando was there. So many people, Tony Franciosa, so many people came in solidarity with the civil rights movement. And so let's think about that today on the 60th anniversary. It is also the anniversary of the death of W.E.B. Du Bois. He died just as the march was commencing. And it was also the date in 1955. It's amazing how these things happened on particular dates. Emmett Till was killed on that date in 1955. And in 2008, this was the date that Barack Obama accepted the nomination as to become the Democratic nominee for the presidency of the United States, making history, and then making history again a few months later when he became the first African American president. Think about those things today. Today, we're going to be talking about, of course, the impact of the Trump arrest, what is happening today in court. I mean, this trial is moving forward, and it's going to be a big, big, big deal. And we want to also know what happened in Jacksonville, Florida, yesterday. Ryan Palmeter first approached a black college, Edward Waters College, a historically black college in Jacksonville, and tried to get in, but he couldn't identify himself. 21-year-old, a kid. And then he went on to, it wasn't racially motivated, these were racist killings. He was looking for black people to kill, and he killed 3 and shot many others. In this heightened atmosphere, all of these tensions, can we accept more of this? I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT. Let me know what your thoughts are today with respect to that. And of course, the Trump arrest and how this is playing out. His numbers are surging. He raised more money in one day than he has raised in the entirety of his campaign. He said a record day. He's raised more than $20 million. And so what does this mean? But people who want to see him prosecuted, digging in their heels too. So I want to know what your thinking is on all of this. 773-763-9278. And I'm coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. So let's get to some of these headlines so we can get some good news. A white gunman killed 3 black people in Jacksonville on Saturday. What happened? He drove to Edward Waters University, historically black college in Jacksonville, but he refused entry. He then went by to a nearby dollar store where he opened fire. He said that he, quote, hated black people, close quote, and left evidence that the attack was racially motivated. A law enforcement official said while he was a madman, he was also very focused. He knew exactly what he was doing. So don't make him crazy, everybody. Might make him mentally ill, but he was not crazy. Russia confirmed that Yevgeny Prigozhin's death did occur in that plane crash. The Wagner mercenary chief who led a short-lived mutiny against the Kremlin in June was killed in a plane crash. Last week, DNA evidence proved it. Florida's Gulf Coast is under a hurricane watch. Why? Tropical storm Idalia was intensifying last week on its way to the Gulf of Mexico, where forecasters predicted it would become a strong Category 3 hurricane. It's set to come ashore between Tampa Bay and Panama City as early as tomorrow night. Apparently today is the last day to be prepared, to leave or to batten down the hatches, as they say. Bob Barker, all of us grew up with him. Many people say he is the best television MC in history. Well, he hosted The Price is Right for 35 years, 99 years of age, and he made his transition this weekend. He's a familiar face to all of us for decades upon decades, holiday parades, beauty pageants, and of course, The Price is Right from 1972 to 2007, 99 years of age. Of course, he was known for being really a proponent of animal rights, Bob Barker, dead at 99. Thank you for all of those wonderful memories. In Chicago, we'll have a high of 75 degrees. It will be sunny. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 86 degrees, partly cloudy. The Cubs and the White Sox and the Twins had great days yesterday. The Cubs 10, the Pirates 1. The White Sox 6, the Oakland A's 1, and the Twins 7, and the Rangers 6. In the WNBA, the Sky 90, the Storm 85. But tomorrow, the Lynx will be playing the Mystics. And those are some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. Call me at 773 763 9278, 773 WCPT. Of course, we have got a brilliant theologian, pastor, really an organizer, a builder of the community. I wish you all could have heard him exult as he is the mayor's neighbor. The mayor lives on the west side, and to see the mayor biking past him, it almost brought you to tears. And I want you to know I felt that. I felt that. There's nothing like seeing someone in your neighborhood go where you never thought you might go. And we just thank God for that, for all of the people that He is lifting in being the mayor. And that's not limited to the West Side. It's not limited to Black children. It is anyone who has ever been born or who has lived on the downside of advantage. When you see someone make it, they're making it for you. Always remember that. Always remember that. Pastor Marshall Hatch, the new Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church, indeed, the Ma'afa Project that your son and Dwight McKee are heading up is making a big difference, not just on the west side, but all over the country. What a model you are for uplift. And we thank God for you today. What's the good news? And wait a minute, and Mrs. Hatch, First Lady Hatch, let me say that, wait. Oh, oh, hold on. That's right. Wait for that other job. Wow. Oh, amen. That's your neighbor and Chicago's neighbor. He really does conduct himself that way. We all claim a piece of him, and we just thank God that he is someone who loves all of Chicago and expresses that in such a bountiful way every day, every day in every way. We're blessed. We're blessed, and I'm certainly wishing him every success. So talk to me. What is the good news today? We've got a lot going on, Pastor Hatch. A lot going on. Mm. Hmm. Yeah. Yes. According to my parents.
In the public square, he was 35 with only 4 years to live.
Mm.
And so we've got to be motivated to work on the vision today. God bless you.
God bless you. Amen. 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 That's right. That's right. Work on the vision today. Work on the vision today. And I'm so
Today,
glad that you are bringing this institution to the community that needs it. So, I mean, you need it, you deserve it. I mean, and that's,
yes,
and then of course I'm going to send to you, you probably have it already, the, uh, the study from the Institute for Policy Studies that shows that it will take 513 years from today for Black people to reach
yes,
economic equality. Now, and I can only imagine what it is for indigenous people because their outcomes in terms in every category are worse than Black people's. So we've got a lot of work to do. And so, I mean, I heard someone say in this shooting down in down in Jacksonville, she said, I thought that racism was behind us, and I thought that we were uh, we have not made any progress. I'm like, no, 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 no. We've made progress. Frederick Douglass ran his lap. Hmm? Wait a minute. Rosa Parks ran her lap. Dr. King ran his lap. Reverend Jackson has run his lap. What you gonna do? Don't act like
that's
this is not
right.
a race where you got to pick up the baton and go. So now stop. The struggle continues, and it is victory is certain if you continue the struggle. So let's no, 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 don't. That's insulting when you say that. And it also shows that you're not willing to put in the work. You're not willing to put in the work. And that is something that all Americans of every color need to understand that if, as Benjamin Franklin said after they signed the Constitution, and a prominent woman in Philadelphia asked him, "What kind of government have you given us?" He said, "A republic, if you can keep it." He was aware that these entities are fragile. So, I just want to thank
It
you for all.
requires
Yes,
yes,
sir.
requires an informed citizenry,
That's
to
right.
have participatory government. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
that's why you have to fight for education, but you also have to fight for communication. The first entity that is seized in a revolution is the communication system. So for us to have papers that are getting
Absolutely.
more thin, for them to talk about shutting down AM radio, they're cutting you off from information. And that censorship is dangerous. Not hearing Robert Kennedy, Marianne Williamson, Cornel West, and all of the Republican candidates. It's dangerous. You're supposed to hear them all. I didn't say you have to agree with them, but you need to hear them, and they ought to be given the platform because the platform actually belongs to you. So just think about that.
And Peter,
Yes, sir.
we need to hear your voice because this information that we get every day on your show, you don't get it everywhere, and I can tell you, you just don't. And then it is probably the most informative show on the air in the country.
Oh, you are
And
sweet.
and and so we, I know that's absolutely true. I mean it, and I'm a connoisseur of information, and you don't get this everywhere, and so we need your voice. We need your voice lifted. We need to pray for your health and your strength
Oh, thank you.
because you are in a unique position because of the platform that God has given you, the family that produced you, on the shoulders that you stand, uh, and then we all need to do our parts as you mentioned. What are we going to do? This is our time to run our lap of the race,
Amen. And I
and
thank you
so
for that. Do me a favor. If you would tell your network to listen to the show, that would help so
yes,
much. Because as Reverend says,
absolutely,
freedom isn't free, and you're not going to get to freedom in Pharaoh's chariot. We have to do this ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, I'm going to end here, but I thought about when you had the show on the 500 to 700 years
Mm-hmm.
it would take for equity for African Americans in America, which is obscene and immoral. I thought about the Exodus as I've been thinking about, and one of the interesting ethical and moral things that happened in that Exodus, if you remember, uh, the people left with reparation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the immorality of Africans, the enslaved Africans being so-called set free without reparation, without resources. When they left Egypt, God saw to it that in this narrative, they didn't leave empty-handed. And so that is exactly what that speech was. Dr. King said 60 years ago, we've come to cash a check, and we don't believe that the bank of justice is empty. We don't believe that the wells of justice are empty. And so we still are fighting that good fight for resources. And that's why we're launching that credit union initiative this day on Dr. King's birthday, marching from the Pleasant Ridge Church and marching to Madison and Central on the Great West Side of Chicago, where I just saw the mayor ride by on a bike and say good morning, Reverend.
Because it's his neighborhood. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Amen. Well, you know what we're going to do? We have Dr. Knighton. Dr. Knighton, if you don't mind, give me 5 minutes on the other side of the break. But
She
I
said
felt
she had
that
to
it was
leave at
important.
7:30 to 6:30.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's get to this break, and I will talk with you, uh, Pastor Match. I want you to come back and talk to us about the economic strides that you're making on the West Side, because that's very, very important, and
Absolutely.
it fits into this
Anytime.
broader tableau of where we need to go, Because when you go to the
Launching
far South
today.
Side, you need it. I mean, that was something that my brother, Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., was fighting for. When he was in Congress, he said, I want the South Side to look like the North Side. I want the West Side to look like the North Side. You know, we only have 920,000 hospital beds in the United States for 330 million people. We need hospitals. We need doctors. We need nurses. We need LPNs. We need, you don't need affirmative action. Close the door and deny nurses and doctors the opportunity to go to school. They need to open the door. Dr. King did say the vaults of opportunity are not empty. He said that. I refuse to believe that. And I refuse to believe that today. Love you, Pastor Hatch. Love you, Dr. Knighton. Dr. Knighton, you stay right there because I got to get some information on you on infection prevention. And we're going to be talking about this racist rampage down in Florida. Will we have more of this as tensions become ratcheted up in America? Back in just a moment on the Santita Jackson Show. I'm sorry, Devin. I missed what you said.
I'm sending Dr. Knighton through, but she said she had to leave around 6:30. But she's here right now if you want to talk to her really quick.
Oh, okay. I'll talk to her quickly. Then I'll just move on.
Dr. Knighton, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Dr. Knighton, I'm so sorry. You know, today is the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington, but it's also the anniversary of the killing of Emmett Till. It's the anniversary of the death of W.E.B. Du Bois. He died just as the march was beginning. He was in exile in Ghana. And then it's also the anniversary of Barack Obama becoming the Democratic nominee. A lot of things happened on August 28th. Yep. And I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said it sounds like it's crazy and very fortuitous that all of those dates will be lined up like that.
As they say, look at God. Look at God. You got to look at, you
Wow.
got to look at signs. You know, my sister and I were born on consecutive days in the order of our birth. I'm the eldest. I was born on Wednesday. Jesse's next to me. He was born on Thursday. Jonathan's next to him. He was born on Friday. Yusef's next to him. He was born on Saturday. And Jackie is the baby. She was born on Sunday.
Wow.
But then my father was arrested in the civil rights movement on July 17. 3 years later, I was born on July 17th. And then, 21 years after that, he gave his his iconic speech at the Democratic Convention, July 17, 1984.
Oh, wow.
My father knows
Yeah,
I look at crazy things like that. He's like, oh, really? He just looked at me and said, my God. I said, I told you I came here so we could do this. Come on, Daddy. Oh man! Then I saw a picture of my parents' first standalone home. We lived in a project in Greensboro, North Carolina, and my mother had planted flowers. Because all the little townhomes, so they're all packed up together. But she had planted flowers, and I could see the curtains that she had sewn in the window. Because my mother's she is very industrious and crafty. When we were at the University of Chicago, my parents had no money. So they took down all the doors and they made my mother made a sofa. That was our dining room table, coffee table, and she put up beads to separate the rooms. Boy, oh boy. But you can just very, very quickly say what I'm sorry that we ran over. Oh, Dr. Knighton. Oh, I will call you later because I need to share something with you.
Okay, that sounds good.
Oh, yeah. I had a really tough day yesterday. Ooh. Oh, boy. The worst I've ever had. Oh. But I'm much better now. But I'm scared to eat anything.
Here, take the recyclables. Oh, no, I was telling my son to take the recyclables out. It's that hour when I got to take kids to school.
Oh, my gosh. Well, girl, bless your heart. That's because you're an hour ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. This is the time.
All right, sending Attorney Lamar, Senator Coleman, Attorney Slane, and Attorney Patillo. I don't have Reverend Wilson yet because we ran out of phone lines.
Okay, no worries. Dr. Knighton will be leaving shortly, but we've got Slane, Lamar.
We have Attorney Lamar, Senator Coleman, Slane, and Attorney Patillo. 60 seconds, everyone.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'll keep you on very quickly. All right.
It's out here. This got something in here that's got to go back.
Okay. I can hear something in the background.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's me this time.
Okay, no worries.
I'm going for today.
No, but I wanted you to say something because everybody's going back to school. Tell folks about the preparedness kit. That's a big deal.
Oh.
We need to push that. And maybe pass that on to the mayor. I'm going to be doing something with the teachers union. I can pass that on to them. But they need that. Okay. Okay, I can hear something in the background. Okay.
No, that's not me. That's not me.
Okay, 10 seconds. We're just trying to isolate it.
Okay, I'm putting me on mute. Tell me if it goes away.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Got a lot to talk about today. We ran over a little bit with Pastor Hatch as we are looking at the 60th anniversary of, or certainly acknowledging the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. We're going to analyze Dr. King's speech more fully during the week because everyone looks at the dream, but no one looks at the text, the substance of his speech. It was really an argument for reparations and restoration. He said, the vaults of opportunity, you've sent us a check and it has bounced. And I refuse to believe that the vaults of opportunity are empty. And we came here to make good, to make you make good on your promises to us. 40 acres and a mule was a whole lot. We had 14 million acres of land Black people did coming out of slavery. Now we're down to under 1.4 million. We've lost more than 90% of our land. We've been hooked and crooked out of that. And European immigrants were brought to the United States and they were given land and they were given colleges and on and on and on. I don't have a problem with that. I just want my piece because the country was built by Black people, not for free, but with unpaid labor. But let's talk about these ratcheted up tensions that I think we're going to have to live with them. This Ryan Paul meter, this 21-year-old, went on a racist rampage and killed 3 Black people. He meant to kill Black people specifically. He started off at a Black college. They would not let him on the campus, Edward Waters College in Jacksonville, Florida. They wouldn't let him on the campus. And so he went and put on his tactical gear and went to the dollar store and just started shooting people. He shot many others, but killed 3. And so with the tensions that we're seeing, the political tensions, quite frankly, all the way around, can we expect more of this? And then, of course, the latest on the Trump case. Will it become a federal case? Will it stay a state case? Will people be separated out because of that? Don't know. But Keith Lamar, former president of the Black Prosecutors Association, will help us to understand all of this, and of course David Slane and Alabama State Senator Marika Coleman will help us to understand how this is being received in different parts of the country. And Attorney Robert Patillo, of course, with his own show from Rainbow Push, but with his own show on WAOK from 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time every Sunday. You don't want to miss that. But Dr. Knighton, who is taking her children to school, I know she's running right now, but you have got a little safety pack that you give to your kids. And as we're hearing about the surges, and we don't hear about the flu anymore, we hear about COVID, RSV, and all these other illnesses. What do you want us to know? Is Dr. Knighton there?
No, I'd hang up on her, and I can't get Reverend Wilson right now either.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Let me move on. Let me move forward. We have got a really, really an ugly moment that we're living through in the United States. And so everybody, let's take a moment to look at that. What happened down in Jacksonville, Florida, I hope it's not going to be replicated, but I have a feeling that with all of the anger out here, we're going to see that and then some. And so let me start with you, Attorney Lamar. Of course, you were trained by Prosecutor Fani Willis, and she's known as a prosecutor's prosecutor. Talk to me about where we are with this case, because it seems that people are digging in their heels and they're becoming, the country's becoming much more polarized over this case, over other things. But the case is really, it's the event around which we can decide that we're going to be polarized. I'll put it that way.
Well, good morning, and thank you so much for having me on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
So when we no problem. So when we think about what's going on right now, we have a former president who's been indicted on RICO charges down here in Fulton County. He also has indictments in other states as well, but the one that's important down here in Fulton is because it's a RICO charge. So it has a sentence of 5 to 20 years. So last Thursday, he was booked in. He's already been indicted by the grand jury. He paid his bond amount, and the next thing up is his arraignment. But a lot of people are digging in their heels, trying to say it's a witch hunt or trying to make up some other claim. But I hope your listeners understand and other people pass the message that this is not a witch hunt. This is simply DA Fani Willis trying to make sure that laws are not broken in our county, that people have respect for the laws, that we have.
Attorney Lamar?
Donald Trump. Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, now I can. You said that this is not a witch hunt. From there,
this is not a witch hunt at all. These are laws that have been allegedly broken. Calling the Secretary of State, asking them to change the rules or to do a miscount, being informed. So yes, Donald Trump has a right to question things, but how far is too far? And I think that's the real question that people must look at.
Call us at 773-763-9278. Stephanie, call back. Let us know what your thoughts are, everybody, about this case. And, we're watching a lot of polarization. I mean, now, do you think it's, if Mark Meadows and a few other of the co-defendants of the presidents, if they're able to get their cases moved into federal court as opposed to state court, do you think that will separate them from the president, help them to flip, if you will?
Oh yes, I think that all of the defendants, not just Mr. Meadows, but all of them would love this case to be moved to federal court. As you know, as being a former president, and just different government entities have different type of immunities in the federal system, but they don't have those same immunities in the state court. One thing is a pardon. So in the federal court, you may be able to get pardoned by the president, whoever that may be at the time. But in the state court, especially here in Georgia, you're not going to be able to get pardoned. Here, we have a different board and parole. So I think that all of the candidates all of the defendants would love for it to be in federal court. But I think that DA Willis is prepared for that. She's already got a team ready for that, and I think they knew that was going to be coming when they made the indictment initially.
We're talking with Attorney Keith Lamar, the former president of the Black Prosecutors Association. For the life of me, I can't figure out why you're not on CNN this morning. But look, I was just listening and I was looking, and I said, well, okay, you're talking to people about Georgia and how this case will be tried in Georgia, but you're not talking to Keith Lamar? Things that make you go, stay right there.
I know this is a better show.
I hear you, but you know what? And I appreciate that. And I'm glad that you are here. That having been said, part of my mission is for you to be heard so that some producer, and they do listen, will hear this show and hear you and take you there as well. Now, when you go there, I don't want you to forget about us. That having been said,
no problem.
It's a both and. It's a both and. They're asking the wrong people the right questions and the wrong people the wrong questions. I mean, there's something that you have to offer to this conversation that I think you need to be placed. You need to be put in place so that you can make the argument. I mean, because for heaven's sake, you've worked for Fonnie Willis. You know who she is. You know how she prosecutes. That's important. But of course, this is happening within a particular context. Attorney Robert Patillo, we had this horrifying, they're saying racially motivated. It was a racist rampage that this 21-year-old went on in Jacksonville, Florida. And he started at Edward Waters College, which is one of our iconic historically Black colleges, one of our HBCUs down in Florida. But they wouldn't let him on the campus because he couldn't identify himself. And, what are you doing here? Because you just don't walk up on these campuses. And he killed 3 people, shot many others. And he had this manifesto. Indeed, the law enforcement officials said, no, he was quite focused. He meant to do this. He wouldn't know. Does he have mental problems? Yeah, he does. But he meant to do this. He targeted people and he meant to do this. Do you expect to see more of this?
Absolutely. And we have to stop lying to ourselves as a country. We have to stop saying that this is a mental illness issue. I've got plenty of crazy relatives out there, and none of them have ordered thousands of dollars worth of technical equipment, bulletproof vests, guns, collected ammo, and then wrote out a manifesto. That's not the way the crazy people generally act. That is more so the way that somebody who is evil acts. There's a very big difference. And we have to stop pretending that these are lone wolf, lonely kids who are just misunderstood. This is a coordinated nationwide network that's being put out and connected through the internet, being encouraged by our political leadership in this country. And we have to start treating it as a terrorist network and mass shooting events. Tell me, just think to yourself, what is the difference between this and the Buffalo shooting? They're the exact same shooting. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. A young white man who's from a different county, different part of the state, scopes out the African-American area, orders equipment, puts on a bulletproof vest, goes to a location where he knows African Americans are located at, in a unguarded location, because anybody who's been to Jacksonville knows the Duval Bangers. You can go to parts of Jacksonville where black folks are at, and you ain't gonna make it out the car. So he specifically went to where the black couch sat, just like in Buffalo. They specifically went to where the grocery store is at, where it would be an unguarded location where people are just simply minding their businesses, and then they go to try to kill as many black people as possible while wearing bulletproof vests. So the whole idea is they're on a suicide mission. They're not just simply lost it one day. They have planned out these things tactically. This is the exact same shooting, and you're not going to tell me that these things are not connected. It's similar to the Uvalde shooting, which has a very similar set of operative facts in those cases also. And as long as we investigate these things simply as being, little Tucker, Tommy, or Connor, or whoever it was, had a bad day and accidentally killed a bunch of black people, we're not going to get to the bottom of who are the people who are financing these things. Again, the shooter in this case was not of impressive means or anything along those lines, but they would have thousands of dollars weaponry and equipment to go do the shooting. The same thing with Uvalde, or the same thing with Buffalo. We can even connect it back to the Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina. We need to understand as a community, we're being hunted. These people are not just having lone wolf attacks. They're not just suddenly deciding they want to kill black people one day. They're going online. They're meeting in these on Telegram channels, on WhatsApp, in 4chan chat rooms, in places where they cannot be tracked, where the messages are encrypted. They're getting this information out there. They're being financed. People are paying for all these weapons. They are paying to radicalize these individuals. The same as any terrorist network around the country, around the world. We need to investigate this of that nature. This is beyond hate crimes. This is domestic terrorism, and we need the full weight of the federal government behind it. Because how many more of us need to be hunted down before we realize what's going on? It's not just African Americans. It's also the LGBTQ communities. We're also seeing these sorts of attacks at synagogues around the country. So we can either understand that this is all connected, and that there's somebody and there are groups behind this that are planning something against the black community and prepare ourselves for it, or we can just sit around and do a prayer circle, hold hands, and then hope for the best, and then wait for the next time that one of these white terrorists comes and slaughters a group of black people, either at a grocery store, at a church, on a college campus, or anywhere else. And we also have to take our political leadership to task. They asked Vivek Ramchwani about this on Meet the Press yesterday. He could not even form his lips to say that we have an issue of white supremacy in this country, even though this man was covered in Nazi flags and paraphernalia and wrote a manifesto talking about how he wants to kill black people. We got Ron DeSantis saying, his thoughts and prayers are with the family. It is illegal in Florida right now for a little child to go to school on this Monday morning and talk to his teacher about this shooting. That teacher would be fired if he said that those people were killed by white supremacists because they hate black people. That is illegal in the state of Florida right now because of Ron DeSantis. We have to look at the political rhetoric that's coming from the right. There's conversation about civil war, national divorce. Tommy Tuberville talking about white nationalism and how important it is. Those aren't white nationalists. Those are just Americans. The us versus them, they're taking these things from you. It's not a coincidence that this shooting took place on the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington. It's not a coincidence that this shooting took place 2 days before the anniversary of the death of Emmett Till. It's not a coincidence that this shooting took place right when the leader of this movement, the figurehead, the iconoclastic figure of the political right, was trotted in through a black city and made to do a motorcade through the hood, where a black district attorney and a black judge booked him into a black jail with black sheriff's deputies, and he was forced to bow to the power of the state and emasculate this MAGA movement in this way. So we have to look at what is actually going on around us, take the blinders off, and that we are in the middle of a war that we don't know started yet, and we can either start preparing for it now or wait till the full attack happens.
Well, and attorney, you are attorney Coleman, but you're state senator, Alabama state senator Coleman. I want you to put all that Robert said, put it into this context. Sheriff T.K. Waters down in Jacksonville said the manifesto is a diary of a madman. Of course, this young man texted his father after he had committed these crimes and said, use a screwdriver and get into my room. And
Right.
Sheriff Waters said, he was completely irrational, but he knew what he was doing. He was
Yeah.
100% lucid. I am so tired of people telling us that these people are crazy. I'm like, no, he might be mentally ill, but he ain't crazy. He's
Right. And there is a
fine.
difference.
Yeah.
He had a mission. I just want to say, kudos to your previous guest. Really, he said the show really, but let me talk about the public policy perspective of it. Many of us around the country have been fighting for gun safety measures across the country, recognizing that we have a real issue in this country when it comes to the amount of guns and the access to guns in this country. And the Republican Party, I'm just going to be as partisan as I have to be today.
Mm-hmm.
The Republican Party has been cowards when it comes to identifying two issues, the white supremacy and the indoctrination of these young people. Because, you would think that somebody as young as this shooter, 21 years old, has grown up in a very diverse country, grew up during an Obama administration, saw that Black people can rise to the highest political position in this country, and he would be used to seeing the diversity of this country, which is supposed to be the beauty of this country. But these young people are being indoctrinated. As your previous guest said, they're being indoctrinated. So there's this whole new group of white supremacists and racists and Nazi-loving folks that are being raised in this country. So on the public policy end, we've got to do several things. The gun safety measure as it relates to red flag laws, which Florida has, it does have. But also, limiting the access of guns to people that do have mental health issues, but that also, have already shown that they are a threat to not only themselves or to others. We've got to be able to do more on the public policy end. But, I would shudder to say that we have to even talk about a full ban on these assault type weapons. Why in the world would a regular person, need the same weapon that the military personnel have? This guy went into, Ryan, I believe is his first name, into that Dollar General with an assault type weapon. Even if somebody had a handgun on them, how in the world do you respond when somebody has a weapon that is just shooting bullet by bullet by bullet? I have experienced that one time in my life. I never thought that I, as a lay person, would have would hear, a military-style weapon, but I just happened to be at a community event in the city of Brighton in my district. It was called Love Thy Neighbor Day. And somebody decided to bring that military-style weapon. And actually, when you first hear it, we first thought, because remember we're at a Love Thy Neighbor Day, we thought it was fireworks at first. And then it was very evident that it was not. And some people froze. Actually, the person that was with me, I had to pull her down to the ground because she literally froze. We had a 6-year-old girl that was shot in the leg that day, and there was one fatality. We have got to get these military-style weapons off the streets. And so as policymakers, especially the Republican Party, they got to have some level of political courage to do that. And if they don't, the public has to do it. You've got to start making these elected officials accountable. You have got to start, literally, you've got to start making them accountable for the policies that they pass, but also the ones that they do not pass. And so, again, kudos to the last guest. But that I wanted to mention something, too, that she said, Santita, as it relates to the mental illness issue. Everything ain't mental illness. I had to go country. Everything ain't mental illness. Again, he had a plan. He had a plan. He knew he wanted to kill Black folks because he had been indoctrinated. I truly believe that. But I also have to ask this question. Where were his parents? He lived in the home with his parents.
And who are his parents?
The only way...
And who are they?
Who are these folks?
Who are these people?
The only way a red flag bill works, or extreme risk protection orders, that's the technical term for the red flag bills. The only way they work is if somebody reports that somebody is a threat to themselves or others. You cannot tell me that at some point the language that he used in his manifesto, the hatred that he had for Black people was not discussed in the dinner table at some point. You can't tell me that. The only way they work is if those family members also have a level of responsibility when it comes to making sure the public is safe. If you know your loved one has made certain threats, has talked about killing Black people, members of the LGBTQ plus community, Jewish individuals, whomever, you have a responsibility to report that. You really should. You should report that. So I really want to know who these folks are. And the other thing is, look, I have grown up. I mean, I'm coming up on a milestone birthday. I'm about to turn 50. I have two adult children. One 25 years old, one 23 years old. There's still one of them just graduated with 2 master's degrees. Just have to go ahead and brag on it. Let's be cool. Master of Public Health, Master of Business. My son is finishing up his undergraduate. Those grown-ups still live in my house as college students, and we don't have locked doors in my house because I pay the bills here. So I'm trying to figure out how in the world somebody who lives in your house, you have to use a screwdriver to go into their bedroom. I don't understand at all. So somebody at some point should have been able to recognize those weapons that are in that room, that manifesto, and I'm sure because he had swastikas, he even had Dylan Roof's name on the rifle, all kinds of white supremacist type insignia on the gun. I'm sure that probably was on his walls also. So you can't tell me that this family did not know that he had these thoughts. I'm sure he has verbalized this. So again, the only way the public policy works is if somebody reports it. So on the public policy end, we have to do better. We have to have the political courage. I live in the state of Alabama, where just like the state of Florida, they have passed what you refer to as constitutional carry, or they've passed all of these bills where you no longer have to have a permit to carry a concealed weapon. How irresponsible of the Republican Party to pass these pieces of legislation where you remove these background checks, where you remove the waiting period. Because we know that in certain situations, if you had the opportunity to look at a person's background, you can know this is a person that does not need to have a firearm in their hand, let alone a military-style weapon. So we've got to have the political courage to do what we need to do on the political end. But there's got to also be some level of responsibility at the family level when you know that this is going on. And lastly, social media. The Elon Musk of the world, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, all of these folks that own these huge social media platforms where these folks are being indoctrinated need to be responsible as well.
Well, they're being indoctrinated at home, and they're allowed to spread this. You know, I mean, it's just like stop.
Being allowed to spread. Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah,
you know, or at least tag them. Because I'm going to tell you, as someone who has been a proponent of peace, my algorithm gets all jammed up. But they come after me. That is Facebook, Instagram, and everybody else. If you want to talk about peace and things like that, no. You get slowed down. But if you're allowed to spew off this racial hatred, racism, and things like that, they let you go on. Look, let them go on, because I let them identify themselves. But call them out. Because I got a problem with censorship, Senator Colvin. You know, I'm like, no, I want to know who these people are. But I want you to mention their names, and I want you to bring out their parents. Who are these people? Who are these people? That's what we need to know. David Slane, I got to hear from you, because I think it's going to be all of these perspectives that are going to help us to understand what we're living in. Because this is a moment where I think we're going to see more of this, sadly. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. David Slane, I'm going to get to you on the other side. Thank you so much. And Senator Coleman, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Always. Anytime that I can make it, I'll be here. I've got to roll off. I got to teach in a little bit.
I know you got to teach, girl. But call me anyway, because we need to talk anyway.
Yes, ma'am. We'll do.
We need to talk.
Take care, honey.
Okay. All right, sweetie. Love you much.
Yeah. Okay. Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Right, everybody. How you doing this morning? You all are great, and I see you came ready to play. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Patillo, are you still there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay. David Slane?
Hang on, sending him right through. He dropped me. He's here now.
Okay. Okay. Okay, who do I have up right now? Okay. Okay, who do I have here? Okay, who do I have with me? I have Patillo. Who else who's here?
Keith's here.
So far, we have Attorney Patillo, Attorney Jones, Attorney Slane, Attorney Lamar, and Reverend Yuri.
Okay. Very good. Just trying to keep up. Hmm. Okay.
We got cable line. We got no choice. Gotta get in.
Sending Dr. Gibbs through.
We'll use a pickup to do it.
Okay. Okay. Dr. Gibbs,
Good morning.
how are you?
I'm very well.
Wonderful. I'm so
How are
glad
you?
you're able to join us. I know everybody has got a lot
Yeah,
to do
sure.
this morning. But when I saw this, I think we gotta talk about this in the context of what we're all dealing with right now. So,
Right.
okay. Attorney Slane, you there?
Good morning. Yes, I am.
Oh, wonderful. I'm going to come to you. And Attorney Jones, are you there?
I am. Good morning.
Okay, good morning. Thank you so much. And Attorney Yuri, Reverend Dr. Yuri, are you there?
Good morning. How are you?
Attorney Patillo?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Okay, and you all can feel free to talk. You know, I'm doing a little bit more than hosting the show. So there are a lot of little pieces we're trying to pull together here. Okay, so let me get to that.
Santita, I know in this segment you were wanting to go over to the Trump stuff, but I would like to weigh in on the shooting in Florida.
No, I'm tying them together.
Okay.
I'm tying them together.
Great.
Is
great.
Attorney Lamar still here?
No.
Okay.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
I
very
am.
good. Very good. Because if you can just help us to understand where we are with this, because, you know, they're saying that this is going to be a big day in this case. But I'm putting this, Attorney Slane and everyone, within the context of this killing in Florida. It could have been far, far worse, but 3 souls that were taken from that were murdered. Well, certainly their bodies, they were murdered, but their souls are eternal. That is more than enough. But I see that there is a hatred that is not being addressed in this country, and we keep trying to, say, oh, these people are mentally ill, but no, you might be crazy, you might be mentally ill, but you ain't crazy. And this sheriff said, he was 100% lucid. Did he have the meanderings of a madman in his manifesto? Sure. But you got to look at these parents. These folks don't want to realize that there's a lot of rot in their culture. My brother Jonathan, who's in Congress now, he makes friends with people all across the aisle, and he should, because he's that kind of guy. Plus, you also understand that you need to get along. You need to know everybody and try to build bridges every opportunity that you get. And he said, I cannot tell you the times when I have been talking to someone with whom, I've gone to lunch, we've had, these wonderful conversations, and then suddenly they well up. The problem with the Black community is that you have no fathers. Like, whoa, hold on. That's not true. I said, flip that 2014 study, 2015 study
60
from the
seconds,
CDC.
everyone.
Thank you. That shows that Black men are the most involved fathers in the United States. Why don't we know who Dylan Roof's parents are? Why haven't they done an interview? I hear something in the background, so somebody needs to go on mute. I don't know if you're outdoors or what, but just be mindful of that, okay? All right, so let's get right to it, everybody. Every little thing can be heard. Every little thing can be heard in the background. That's the nature of a phone. It's not like the human ear. It doesn't discriminate. You can hear everything all the time. So if you want to make breakfast, just
10
go
seconds.
on mute. Stand by. And let me know if we still have callers.
Yes, we have Mama D and Anita.
Okay.
Can change the world, change the world, change the world. Yes, we can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It is Monday, August 28th, 2023. I'm coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Of course, many of us know the iconic I Have a Dream speech, but we haven't studied the whole speech. The speech Dr. King talked about reparations, talked about restorations. He said that, America has given Black Americans a check and it has bounced. And I refuse to believe that the vaults of opportunity are bankrupt, that they're empty. We need to continue to talk about that. This was not about him and Mrs. Coretta Scott King taking their children to an amusement park. Of course, you want to be judged by the content of your character, not the color of your skin. But you got to deal with the structural inequalities that have made poverty all too real in America today for everybody, but especially for Black people, especially for indigenous people. Got to look at that. And that is what that speech dealt with. That is what that speech dealt with. And they were so afraid of the march that Washington, D.C. shut down that day. Washington, D.C. shut down that day. And of course, on that same day in 1955, August 28th, that is the day that Emmett Till was killed. On that same day, on that same day, W.E.B. Du Bois, just as the march was beginning, was in exile in Ghana. He died then. And then, of course, in 2008, Barack Obama accepted the Democratic nomination for the presidency of the United States, becoming the first Black man to be the standard bearer of a major American political party. And then he went on to make history to become the president of the United States. So let's think about the March for Justice and Freedom. It started in 1941 with the great A. Philip Randolph. We're going to be getting into that throughout the week because I think it's important that we take that apart and really understand what that speech was about and what the march was about. Oh, everybody, let's get to some of these headlines. We are talking about what happened in Florida. This white gunman, let's start there with the headlines. He drove to Edward Waters University, 21-year-old Ryan Palmeter. I don't believe that you should not mention these people's names, and I think you need to know who his parents were, who they are. He, of course, he killed himself. But he went to Edward Waters University, which is an historically black college in Jacksonville, Florida. They would not let him come onto the campus because he could not identify himself. He could not identify why he was there. He then went to a nearby Dollar General store where he opened fire and killed 3 people and wounded many others. 21 years of age, said that he hated black people. And indeed, the sheriff, T.K. Waters, said, look, he had his diary had the meanderings of a madman, but he was 100% lucid. Don't make him crazy, everybody. He wasn't crazy. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he was targeting black people, and we need to think about that, everybody. Russia confirmed that Yevgeny Prigozhin was killed in this plane crash last week. They identified him through DNA. Florida's Gulf Coast is under a hurricane watch because Tropical Storm Idalia was intensifying last week. They're expecting it to be a Category 3 hurricane. Bob Barker hosted The Price is Right, Miss America pageants, holiday parades. Oh my goodness, down through the years. And we have all grown up with him. He was 99 years of age. He died at his home in Los Angeles on Saturday. Thank you, Bob Barker, for all of these wonderful, wonderful memories. Nearly 5,000 pilots are suspected of hiding major health issues. Federal authorities have been investigating the pilots who are suspected of falsifying medical records to conceal problems that could make them unfit to fly. I think we need to talk to them and find out exactly what is going on, because they're more conscientious than just trying to hide their medical status. The U.S. Open gets underway this morning. Yay! I don't know about you tennis fans, but it takes place in Queens at the Billie Jean King National Tennis Center. Oh boy, it will run through the singles final at the beginning of September 9th and 10th. I love it. I love it. I love it. That's like one of my favorite things when I lived in New York. I used to go all the time. In Chicago, 75 degrees and sunny. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 86 degrees, partly cloudy. Major League Baseball, well, Chicago and Minneapolis had a great day. The Cubs 10, the Pirates 1. The White Sox 6, the Oakland A's 1, the Twins 7, the Rangers 6. In the WNBA, the Sky 90 and the Storm 85. And tomorrow the Lynx will be facing off against the Mystics. And those are some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. We have a tremendous panel of guests today. And so I want to, before we go to our panel, I want to get my callers, because you all have been holding, you've been so patient. I'll give you about a minute and a half for your comments. Anita from North Carolina, what's on your mind today, sweetie?
Hi. I pledge of allegiance to the swastika. I am a slave of America. I guess that's what I'm supposed to understand from all of this. And when they shoot me, I surrender and die. And I'm just a fly, you know.
Oh boy! So what do you make of this? Do you expect to see more of this?
I gotta make this point as a Muslim. 9/11, they said these people had no right to be suicide attackers, right? They killed themselves. They flew planes in there, and they were suicide bombers or whatever. Okay, so this guy goes in, and he's a suicide person too, so it makes it right. And then we look stupid in the world telling other people, you can't come and defend yourself and kill yourself. So we're going to kill people, and we're the leadership of this country. And we're going to implode and kill people like the suicide bombers. But it's illegal to be a suicide bomber without waging trillions of dollars in war. So first of all, that's stupid. Okay. Second of all, I think Ron DeSantis in Florida, I think he put his foot in his mouth. You know, this kid thought that black people were getting skills by being slaves, you know, so why would they rebel white leadership and indict Trump? So he's all mixed up in the head for what people are telling him. And if he's never had experience with black children, like lived in a mixed community like what my Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. was representing, which was the best of middle class excellence in America, he doesn't know how to deal with black people. And I guess he knows by what he sees on television, and that's like Disneyland or, you know.
This is coming from his parents. This is coming from his parents. And we need to, and
Well, what community?
you need to know who his mother and father are. We need to stop giving these people passes. And I mean, I'm so tired of these corporate media saying we're not going to mention their names because that blows them up. No, 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 no. When you mention that names, that means you are obligated to investigate who they are and where they come from and the communities that they come from. These are a bunch of racists that are being raised by racist parents, and it's a sin and a shame, and we need to deal with it. Because I am not down with these people coming after me, deciding to shoot me and my kith and kin. I'm sick of it.
Well,
We ought to be done.
Santita,
Just very quickly, Anita.
there's suicide people, and it's illegal because we wage wars against that, and we're allowing it to happen. So why do white people get past break the law? And we're slaves. Going to their kids, you are a slave. White people can tell you what to do anytime they feel like it, however they want to express it, like Ahmaud Arbery, just shoot you down like an animal. And it's done. I'm justified, like the kid that went to Kenosha and traveled all of that way there with his mom. We never met his mom. I did. I didn't see her.
And we need to know, and we need to know who she is. She drove her son there with a gun. Are you for real? I love you, Anita, but let me get Mama D. Mama D, what's on your mind today?
Well, hello, you greetings. If sons of former slaves and former slave owners sit at the table of brotherhood, I think that would help stop the hate. Today, August 28th, is my 78th birthday, and 73 years
Mama
as a freedom fighter.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. And it started when I was 5 years old and refused to give up my seat on the front of the bus and got home and all hell broke loose. So today is Dream Day Vision Quest, and as founding president of Global Committee commemorating King Days, I invite all to wear the colors black and white in the spirit of We Are One, WAO, and visually affirm the principles of righteousness, justice, peace, peoplehood, and cultural coexistence. Our 39th annual theme is Upright the World. Dream Day is one of the 3 visually affirmed days of respect. The other 2 days are January 15th and April 4th. You mentioned indigenous. 1619 came before 1776. So kidnapped captives are indigenous because they were here before America got here. My question is...
We just lost Mama D.
Oh, we just lost Mama D. Well, and although we landed really in the 1530s with the Spaniards, I mean, the fact is, some people met us here. Those are the indigenous people. We're African people who were transported here, but those are the indigenous people. Let's get right to it, everybody, because I know I'm conflating these cases, but I'm conflating what happened in Jacksonville, Florida. I mean, driving on to the Edward Waters University campus. That's a big deal. That's an HBCU. That's a black college. That's a black college. He meant to go and kill a lot of people. And as we're watching these tensions be ratcheted up all around the country, I'm afraid that something like this will be replicated over and over and over again. Let me start with you, David Slane. Of course, we have got a tremendous panel. Dr. David Gibbs, historian from the University of Arizona. Attorney Lamar is with us. I'm so glad that you're still here. Reverend Dr. Yeary, Esquire, Rainbow Push. Attorney Dave Slane is with us. Attorney Darrell Jones, chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition, and Attorney Robert Patillo. Let's get right to it. Attorney Slane, you had wanted to jump in from the previous hour, and I thank you for being there because I'm hoping that what you heard kind of was helpful. But you continue to tell us, look, I'm from the reddest of the red states. I'm from Oklahoma. Y'all need to understand that there is a different perspective out here, even though you don't share it.
Different perspective, and for your listeners, you can't see me on the radio, but I'm white. I'm the whitest of the white.
Yes.
So
and he's handsome too.
While I don't
just every.
Thank you. I'll take that. Now let me tell you what we got though. There's 2 things about this shooting in Florida, 2 or 3 things that I think are important to note and talk about. Number 1, this is absolutely a racist, hateful, murderous killer. Let's call it what it is. He's a young white man. He may be mixed up. He may have mental issues. I'll give you that. But I know a whole bunch of people that's got mental health issues, and they ain't going out killing black people. This young man wanted to kill black people. That's what was in his manifesto. Okay? The sheriff laid it out on the line for us. He used the N-word liberally. He wants to kill black people. That's why he went to this historical black college. Thank goodness that a security or police officer ran him off. He wouldn't identify himself, so he leaves. He was there to kill a whole bunch of black students. That's why he had this AR-style rifle. That's why he had this pistol. Going to no dollar store. He was going to go on that campus and kill a bunch of young black students. That's what he was going to do, period. Number two, and I won't go long because you got a distinguished panel, but number two is this. That is mixed up with our whole policy problem in this country of gun control. We have people who have been committed. This isn't somebody who went for depression, Santita, that got a pill from his psychologist or psychiatrist. This is a man that had to be locked in a mental facility for 72 hours because he was a threat to himself or others. Ding, ding, ding. He had a mental illness. Anybody with a mental health issue in the past, before they should be allowed to purchase a gun in America, should have a mental health evaluation and be signed off by a psychiatrist within 2 days or 3 days of purchasing the firearm. That will stop some of that. But the other problem is this, and I know some of my friends here in Oklahoma hate it when I talk about this. I read the First Amendment. I know what it means. I read the Second Amendment. I know what it means. But what I will say is this, though. You have a right, I guess, to have these weapons. But they're weapons of mass destruction. If he had got on that campus, Santita, it would have been a massacre. Mm-hmm. And we cannot ignore this. There is a disease out there among my white population. They hate black people. They despise black people. They believe they're superior to white people because of their race. And until we recognize that, white people don't even know. Some of my white friends don't even know we got a problem. They look at me like I'm crazy when I speak up. So I'm just telling you, we're going to see more of this until we address some of these problems. And we've got to start somewhere. I understand it's connected. I understand there's other issues, but we have to start somewhere, Santita.
No, look, I agree with you. I mean, because Dr. Gibbs, this is happening within a particular historical context. That's why hearing all of these different voices, it's so important. You are all in different parts of the country, and you're getting different conversations. And quite frankly, Dr. Gibbs, white people speak very frankly with each other. People do. That's what we do in our tribes. I'm not mad at anybody. But I mean, at least would you share with me what you're hearing over there? Because it helps me to understand what the thoughts are. Even if it's not a black-white thing, if some people just believe that Fonnie Willis is wrong, then okay, I want to hear that. I want to hear that discussion. But this was especially disturbing to me because I went to a black school, and I know the black schools still graduate the most engineers, doctors, black professionals, the people who serve our community, who serve the broader community than any other institutions in the United States. And this young man went to that campus, meaning to take out a whole lot of people, a lot of black people. And it's happening within a particular context, a particular social and political context. And I think we got to deal with that, Dr. Gibbs.
There's no doubt that basically the United States there's a history of violence in the United States that exceeds many other countries. And, in this case also it's mixed in with this very ugly sort of racism issue and the fact that there's a lot of racism that remains in this country of a violent sort. And we're just, the guy it's very easy to dismiss the guy as a psychopath, a sociopath, which he undoubtedly was, but then clearly there was a larger issue here of hatred of black people that was evident. I suppose the only positive you can say is it could have been much worse. Mm-hmm. And by keeping him off the college campus, they prevented an even larger massacre. But That's a terrible thing that for no reason, people just shopping at the Dollar General were killed like this. You know, in terms of the larger issue, one problem you do have, the United States has this obsession with not just guns, but automatic weapons as well. And there just seems to be this enormous political polarization around the issue of guns. And it really is a serious problem. I mean, you know, increasingly I'm a little bit leery about going into public spaces just because one never knows when there's going to be a nut with a gun. You know, it's very impressive if you go to other countries, let's say you go to Europe, one notices how there's a lower level of tension just because one doesn't have this gun problem in most countries in Europe. And so I suppose one public policy issue here that can address this would be some form of gun control, at least, you know, mental health tests for people before they'd be allowed to own guns at a minimum. But because of the political polarization in the country, it seems almost impossible to raise that in a productive way to do anything about it. Everything seems to be tied into this sort of political divide in the United States between the Reds and the Blues, the sort of tribal conflict that prevents any progress that would prevent future shooting. Well, I don't know about prevent, at least reduce the possibility of future shootings on this scale. And so, you know, we're kind of stuck with this unresolved social problem, and periodically you get these horrific shootings like we just saw in Florida.
I'm just wondering what is the answer. I want you all to call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. I know we only have a couple minutes here, but Reverend Dr. Yuri, you're a veteran and you've talked about gun control, self-control. There's a lot going on here, but it's all happening, you know, this is being nurtured in this, or should I say being cooked in this toxic environment. And it's getting worse. I've got 2 minutes for you, Reverend Dr. Yuri. Actually, 1.5.
Well, good morning, Santita, and to my colleagues. Childish Gambino's right. This is America. It always has been. This infatuation, not just with guns, but with violence in general, it's been a tool of reinforcing the structural inequality and keeping folks in their place. It relegates spaces and places where folks could go, often by the hands of folks who wear badges in law enforcement. And so it is this epidemic that is ever expanding, ever spreading, and it is being fueled in this culture where not only is there overt hostility racially, there's also a pulling back of telling the story of the contributions of Black folks beyond having a job training program on the plantation. Now Arkansas imposes restrictions on the African American Studies AP course. So it gives this impression that Black folks are still the burden of the nation. And when that is the culture, you now think about it now. Edward Waters College is not just an HBCU. This is the time when students are returning to campus. There's a lot of activity outdoors on the campus at this time. This could have been much, much more violent, much more deadly than it was. And so we've got to look at ourselves in the mirror as a nation, but we cannot back down from the threat of violence. We've got to stand up and resist it, even in the fronts where we don't think it contributes to gun violence, but we've got to fight for inclusion in the classroom. We've got to fight for gun control, and we've certainly got to fight for good legislation at the ballot box.
And you're absolutely right, because I think about going back to, Black college. At this time, everybody's out. Because you're not in class yet. And you're looking for your friends, and you're trying to get your classes, trying to get your room. You're moving across campus. This is where everybody's out on campus. This could have been a slaughter. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show. Call me at 773-763-9278. And let's talk about this today, because it's happening within a particular context. Got to talk about it. Trump didn't start this, but oh boy, he and so many others can do so much to bring down this temperature. They can, and they should. Everybody, on the right and the left. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Because let me tell you something. I think that Democrats and Republicans need to come out and say something about this. I really do. I think they all should say something. Yes. Jeanette?
Yes, ma'am. Just letting you know I'm on.
Okay, no, very good. I hear you. This is a lot. And they're not being honest about this. But you all keep talking because I'm trying to do more than one thing here.
And no problem. And this is Keith talking to you. After the next segment, I might have to leave. We got a meeting coming up at 9.
Well, if you could just give us an overview of what we're dealing with, because I just think it's toxic brew. Attorney Lamar, this is a mess, and no one wants to talk about it. No problem. I mean, are you all feeling anything? I mean, how were things feeling down in Atlanta and in the Georgia area?
In regards to the shooting, or
no, I mean just socially. I mean, do you feel tension there?
Well, I personally don't feel it, but I think that I'm in a different environment compared to a lot of people in America. Right, Atlanta's a little different setting. So I personally don't feel it because I'm where people I interact with every day. But I got a feeling, outside of 285, it might be a little different.
When you get outside of it. Oh yeah.
Yes, I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah. It's only because I have driven down there that I get it. Because we used to come down to Morehouse and Spelman and the AU Center when I was at Howard. But it's interesting. My father wouldn't let me. I'd have to fly down there. He was like kind of freaked out about us driving long distances. And so he said, okay, you want to visit? Not a problem. But you're not going to drive.
Oh yeah, and I know that down there at Morehouse and Spelman, I actually visit the campus a lot. These are things that they're talking about. These are action items to them. They're trying to figure out, how do they go forward? But they're the young people that's going to be growing up in this new world, and how do you make that new world better? Or are they going to continue to make the same mistakes over and over?
Well, Robert knows
kind of where
that's where Robert went to school. Robert.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Clark, Atlanta, and I think that it's important that we make this distinction in these events between the guns and the gun holder, because these people are being radicalized, and as was said earlier, now they're going into almost suicide bombing. So even if we get rid of firearms altogether, if these people are dedicated to killing black people, and the next thing they're going to turn to is Tannerite vest and improvised explosive devices, we got to get to the root of this terrorist movement that's hunting black folks around the country. And I think that one of the things the administration can do is move these investigations out of the Department of Justice as hate crimes and move them to the Department of Homeland Security as terrorist actions.
60 seconds, everyone.
Something needs to happen because we are under siege here, and it is. And I think things are going to get uglier before they get better, much better. I really do, and I am not a pessimist by nature at all. But when I saw this, I said, he's 21, like Dylan Roof, Kyle Rittenhouse. These are kids. And this poison is being poured into them by their parents. And I think you need to sit up and interview these parents. I know Barbara Walters is no longer with us, but Oprah, go talk to them. Let's bring them on.
10 seconds.
Okay, I can hear something in the background, everybody. Okay, can hear something in the background.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
To a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am green.
Hey, Reverend Jeanette Wilson. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. We've got you, Attorney Daryl Jones. We have got Reverend Todd Yeary, Esquire. I'm going to have you come back and just give remarks, I think, more fulsomely. But of course, and we've got Attorney Lamar, Attorney Keith Lamar, the former president uh, of the Black Prosecutors Association, of course, was trained by Dr. Fonnie Willis, Dr. David Gibbs from the University of Arizona, brilliant historian, and of course, attorney Dave Slane, who's just been very, you all have both been very honest. Everybody's been very honest. And I think we have to be honest about what it is that we see. But Attorney Wilson, before I go to the rest of the panel, what are your thoughts?
One of the things I think is interesting, 60 years ago, immediately after the historic march on Washington, there was the bombing of the church in Birmingham, 4 little girls. And it seems that every time we have a public demonstration of the challenges America faces, there's this underbelly of hate crimes and racism that opens up. And I think that we have seen this hate fermented across this nation. It has been pushed in many ways by these Republicans, not just Republicans, but people have been radicalized as they've listened to former president and others from a national level, at a very high level, promote hate and negativity one towards another. And so now you have people who are operating within a social media network that we are really unfamiliar with in many ways. They're armed and dangerous and are prepared to attack. HBCUs need to be under high alert, as many civil rights organizations, because this is what happened in Florida. It's just something that I think is happening all around the country. This violence is just unchecked, and it's just very difficult because it's cropping up in places and situations that we are not familiar with, because there's so many guns on the street. And it's not just regulating the gun stores. It is regulating my ability to purchase and make a gun that I purchase parts on the internet. It's these ghost guns that are prevalent all across the country. And it's the mindset that I will take a life because I feel that life is impacting my ability to move forward as an individual based on their race, based on their religion, and country of origin. I just feel that we're at a very dangerous moment, particularly since we have a number of migrants that the Bible calls sojourners in our country, that people find them as if they are aliens dropped from above, that therefore they need to be ready to attack. So this is a very tenuous time in our nation.
I think we need to be mindful of it. That's why, I pulled this happened within a particular context. And I think that it's important for us to understand that, Attorney Daryl Jones.
Oh, absolutely, Santita. And Santita, one of the things that that people need to remember, and I give high kudos to Dr. Andura and Wiesek, because with the Florida State chapter of the NAACP, they called for a travel advisory, and they said because there was this atmosphere of hate that existed in the state of Florida, that they were concerned with regards to the safety of Black residents and other residents of color in the state of Florida. And I think that, part of what we see out that's playing out here is a part of the advisory that the NAACP was issuing. Part of the reason they issued the advisory was because of the atmosphere that was being created from the governor, right, from DeSantis, and certainly creating an environment there that was hostile to African Americans. And so when you have that being juiced up, this hostility based on race or orientation and other things, you start to breed the environment where actions like this can occur. And so when I look at that, and you consider also that what happened in Florida during this period, what was it, July, that they decided the permitless carry law in Florida, that they didn't have the waiting periods, there's no mandatory waiting periods, there's no universal background check, there's no red flag law that's there. It's pretty much anyone that wants the gun in Florida can get the gun in Florida. This is what happens with those types of laws. This is what happens in those types of environments that are being created. So, I think it was Professor Gibbs or Dave Slane, I'm not certain which, that talked about what needs to happen now. So one thing that I think needs to happen now, this, I always come back to the importance of the vote. One thing that needs to happen now is that the states are having difficulty regulating firearms. So we need to do it on a federal level. There needs to be a federal law that exists that puts in place, the red flag laws, mandatory waiting periods, sensible gun safety measures here in the United States.
Were you about to say something, Robert Patillo?
I think that we need to.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, please. No, I'm good. Go ahead, Cynthia.
No. I wanted you to continue.
So we've got to be certain that we put federally elected people in place, because the states clearly don't have many of the states don't have the ability to do it. We got it here in Maryland. Other states have all kinds of red flag laws. But what we need to do is that we need to be certain that some type of onus is put on, some type of legislation that's put in place federally that will mandate to the states, for the safety of the U.S. citizens, these sensible regulations on gun control. That, the question is, would it have prevented this? I don't know, but I think it would have made it more difficult, less likely that it would happen. I guess this strikes a nerve with me, because when we were down in Jacksonville, Florida, for the Arc of Voter Justice Tour, we were on the campus of Edward Waters University. We were in that area where this shooter was. We saw the students that are there. So I can feel the fear that of what could have happened if the EWU officers had not shown up and scared them off. It would have been a massacre. It would have been a much greater massacre than what existed now. So those measures, at a minimum, I think, Santita, need to be put in place.
Reverend Dr. Uri, only gave you a couple of minutes before. I'm just wondering, it seems like this is a cultural issue as well, a spiritual issue, because, lynchings occur, you had dogs and ropes, okay? And while certainly I do believe that assault rifles and all that, you don't need that. People, you have 3D machines, people are going to make the guns. There's something else going on here where people don't value life, where they feel that they have the right to take your life. I'm having a bad day, or I don't like you. You're taking my job. You. There's something going on here, Reverend Dr. Uri.
Well, two things, Santita. One, the text says a little leaven leavens the whole loaf. You don't need a lot of poison to kill a nation, just a little bit, and just watch the effect. The second thing, though, is I hear Brother Malcolm say we've been bamboozled. We've been bamboozled into believing that somehow the Second Amendment is the mechanism by which we protect ourselves from a tyrannical government. But when in reality, it is the way the government uses the access and the availability of guns to create a phobia, a paranoia in the masses that then causes the masses to turn on each other, so that those who are at the top, the elite, never have to worry about the masses of people who far outnumber them turning on them. It is a very curious way. In the military, when I was the armorer, supply was my job. And so I joked about, the bombs and the bullets and the guns fell under my purview. A commanding officer could restrict access to your assigned weapon simply by the first indicator that you were not in the position to be able to handle the weapon responsibly. They didn't just issue them and say, take them home, hold on to them, keep the bullet somewhere separate from the weapon. You had to have an actual situation and the authorization to be able to get the weapon issued to you. And so the military has more control over its weapons than we have weapons on the street. You now have police being outgunned by the folks they're responding to and for in communities. And so now there is this renewed hesitance where violence escalates more violence. Now you're going to have more lethal weapons, not less lethal. And I think in many ways we have to look at the UK model. You cannot own a gun in Great Britain as a civilian. You can have a shotgun if you're a farm owner. And the police are not armed except in a very rare instance where they might have the need for weaponry to respond to kind of a mass incident. So when we look at the industrial nations of the world and how they do not have the same kind of social issues, one of the reasons they don't is they don't have this infatuation and now this contribution to GDP in gun manufacturing, where you now have more guns in the country than you have people. That is a sign that the leaven is going overboard. We are overwhelmed by Second Amendment yeast, and it is killing us.
What do you think? I mean, just historically, Dr. Gibbs, where are we? Just what is this? Have we seen anything like this before? I mean, what is this saying about us?
Well, I think that we are a nation.
Oh no, hold on one second, because I want the historian and then you, Dr. Reverend Wilson. Dr. Gibbs?
Yeah, one of the things you do have is, I and a number of the other panelists have pointed out, the need for gun control, including most importantly federal gun control, and obviously I enthusiastically support that idea. That is one of the key public policy problems we have here, that you allow people who are deranged, basically, and dangerous to have access to guns, unrestricted for the most part, at least in many states. And obviously we do need legislation to change that. The problem is the country has this enormous division, this culture war going on that makes anything like that virtually impossible. And it's a real blockage to any kind of progress on the issue of gun control and a whole range of other issues. There's so many issues. I think part of this, as I would see it, is to some extent, a class issue. And you did have in the 1970s this push by the wealthy classes in the United States to concentrate wealth, which they did with great success. And they did have a strategy, and I studied this, and this is really very conscious, to try and use sort of social issues to divide people, to get them fighting with each other about a whole range of things, including guns, and to distract them from what was really happening, which was concentration of wealth at the expense of most people. That's not the only reason we have this obsession with guns. Obviously, there are cultural issues. Obviously, there's this tremendous racial antagonism in many parts of the country. But there's something else, too. I think to some extent this was encouraged as a means of distracting people from the issue of wealth concentration. Generally speaking, now, these are called the wedge issues. Nixon was a master of using these things, a way of sort of dividing people. Agnew, his vice president, said, dividing the country has become my specialty. I'm very proud of my ability to divide the country. He said it openly. Nixon never said that openly, but that was very much Nixon's strategy too. And it wasn't just Nixon who did this. It was Nixon who was the pioneer in using these wedge issues to divide people. But this has become a very standard technique of sort of right-wingers in the country. One doesn't think of these things as having economic implications, but they do, and their economic implication is to keep people divided as much as possible. Unfortunately, what you have in addition to the divisions and the wealth concentration, you have a lot of dead bodies result from this. We've just seen dead bodies piling up over time. And so the cost of this is enormous. But I do think that part of what is going on here was to some extent related to the issue of economics and a way of enabling the rich to achieve their objectives at great expense to the rest of us, unfortunately.
So what say you? I mean, David Slane, what are you hearing down in Oklahoma? I mean, is there anything that you're hearing that makes you think that violence could be on the rise or is on the rise, or that that we're just like on the precipice?
Well, I think undoubtedly it is, and I think all we have to really do is just look at the headlines every day. I mean, we had a school shooting. Young man, the school shooting here, not 20 miles from my office in Oklahoma City, a high school football game, and they have to stop the game because there's a high school shooting and somebody's dead. And I think that we have to recognize that we just live in a society where guns are part of who we are and what we are, and it's here, and they're here to stay. I appreciate everyone talking about the underlying causes and possibilities and all of that, but the reality is these guns are here, and we have to deal with it. And I think that in the future we're going to see these things happen. When you mix hatred and guns together, you're going to get a violent result. I can't get around it. And Santita, I say this over and over again, and I want people to really hear me. I'm a white man, and I'm in circles of white people, and they say things out loud that they would never repeat around anybody of color, and I'm telling you, the things they say will floor you. Racism, everyday colorful word. I hear the N-word multiple times every day out of multiple mouths. This racist hatred thing is real. It's here. So we have to understand. What would I say to stop all this stuff? I mean, philosophically, I could give you a million answers, but I'll tell you what, at every historical black college, they better up the security. That's what they better do. They better go protect those young people because they're going to come and they're going to shoot them. This guy didn't go to a dollar store. Come on, are you kidding me? That's not what his goal. I'm going to go down in history for shooting people at a dollar store. He wanted to go down in history as somebody that was a violent, revolutionary, racist that killed a bunch of young black people at a college campus that's about to start classes. That's what he wanted to do. He has SWAT stickers drawn on his AK-47 or AR-15. We cannot dismiss that. So you're going to have to, until you can solve racism, and I'm not sure you could ever really solve it without hundreds of years of education, we have to take the necessary steps to protect ourselves. And we have to realize violence is on the rise.
Reverend Wilson, you wanted to jump in? There you go.
Well, I think obviously we have a spiritual health issue. It's not just the access to guns, it's the mindset to kill people. And that mindset is permeated throughout this nation. People are hating each other based on race and class. And if I lose my job, I assume that you took it from me. It's personal, and we have allowed legally. We have no federal policy about guns that has gun control written in it. There's no federal policy about education. Who has access to public education. Every one of those are states' rights agendas. And we've allowed this states' rights agenda to turn this country into a place of many sub-countries. Each state is a country within itself. And people are doing what they think is right in their own eyes. They don't have to ask. The federal government has decentralized its power because you have such a division at the federal level. We can't get any bills passed to control the flow of weapons from the House or the Senate. There's no leadership in the federal institution. And so now you have these state right legislators who we used to think when you get elected to state office that you're some kind of brilliant, caring individual. There's a bunch of nuts in some of these states in the legislative bodies. We saw it in Tennessee. We see it in Florida. We see it all around the country, especially in not just the southern states, but in the majority of the southern states. So we have a problem with our spiritual health. America has no soul. And that's what is causing this level of violence to just go rampant. And we've not called America's soul into question state by state and within the halls of Congress.
You know, Attorney Lamar, what should we be looking for in this case today? I mean, because everybody's eyes are on Georgia for so many reasons. What should we be looking at? What should we be on the lookout for? Will this become a state case? Will it become a federal case? They're saying that if it becomes a federal case, it'll be easier for the Trump team. I mean, what should we be looking out for?
I mean, just to quickly echo what some of the people have said prior to me, I think that it is true that it's a moral issue. People understand that life is very important. Racism is something that is taught. You're not born a racist. Mm-hmm. You're taught to be a racist. And I think people should understand that. So, the more we have people teaching how to be racist, then that's what you're going to have. But if we're able to teach people other things, maybe, just maybe, we have a better society. But as far as Georgia is concerned, I know that right now we're in the state. I know DA Fonnie Willis would like to keep it in her courthouse. The Trump team and his co-defendants are definitely going to try to move it to the federal courthouse because they know that they have a little bit better federal rights and a larger jury pool. The jury pool here in Fulton County is, more liberal, more Democratic makeup. As you know, our state went blue the last election, so I'm pretty sure he wants to go more federal and to get some of those outside people that live outside of Atlanta. But I do agree that this country is at a very, it's a very important spot where we are, and how we react to it is going to really matter. So, I don't think there's a need to live in fear. You need to be smart. You need to be, make sure you take right precautions. But living in fear is not the way. And I think that we have a lot more to give. And hopefully don't let some of these nut jobs take away our peace, our identity, and what makes America great. And it's not about being racist. That's not what's going to make anybody great. It's not about not, being closed-minded. You have to be open-minded and able to grow in order to be a better person.
Attorney Robert Patillo, the last 90 seconds belong to you.
I think it's crucial that we understand there are things that can be done in the future, but as of right now, we have to make sure we are defending ourselves, that we have the exact same Second Amendment rights as everybody else, and that we have to start meeting the threat that exists to us right now. I think that if anybody has the ability and the rights and the inclination, it's time to start taking self-defense and gun classes, because these people are there is no longer being in the wrong place at the wrong time. They're hunting us. They are attacking college campuses. They're attacking churches. They're attacking grocery stores. They are attacking us just going down the street. And these people are organized. They are buying equipment. And they are being outfitted with bulletproof vests. We damn sure better be in a position where we can defend ourselves while we work through the legislative process and hope for the best of those things to happen. We have to think about ourselves and our communities in the here and now.
Well, we will be transformed by the renewing of our minds. We have to decide that we're going to be, it's nonviolence or non-existence. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King told us that. And my father often says that, hey, an eye for an eye, or tooth for a tooth leaves people toothless and blind. What we're doing right now is taking us straight to hell, and it's got to stop. It's got to stop. We've racialized classism in America. Classism is real. Racism is real. All of these isms are real. And we need to grow up in our politics and grow up spiritually so that we can understand that we all belong on God's earth, because we're all God's children. God loves us all. Doesn't approve of all of our behaviors, but loves us all. And we need to love each other. That's the only way that we're going to truly receive the bounty, the blessings and the bounty of heaven. We got to have a changed mind, everybody. We are but a thought away. We need to find out who this boy's parents are. Ryan Palmeter. Who are his parents? What is the community that shaped him? Somebody knew who he was, but we don't want to talk about it. Corporate media doesn't want to talk about it because we want to protect you. No, you don't. You don't want to have the discussion because you want this to continue. If you wanted it to stop, you would stop it. You would investigate who these people are. You would show us who they are, and you'd stop them. And it needs to stop. Love is the answer, everybody. I love you. God bless you. Have a great day. Hey, does anyone have any closing thoughts? Attorney Jones, Dr. Gibbs? I know, Dr. Gibbs, I know you got to go teach. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Well, I think one of the things you have in America is you have, these social divisions, most prominently the division of race. And one of the things it does serve is to prevent working people from joining together in a coalition to advance their interests. There are many tragedies, obviously, associated with these kinds of divisions, including one we've just seen, which is people being killed. But one of the tragedies is we have these unaddressed social issues, this enormous class divide. which itself cannot be addressed because we have all these other divisions that prevent working people from joining together to advance their interests. And so I think that's one of the, I tend to see class basically at the bottom of a lot of problems America faces. And I see it in this case as well. It shows up here as well, in that dividing people is always an effective way of preventing social change. And I think that we've been seeing that in the United States for many decades now, with disastrous results, I should add.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and we've racialized classism, but given the fact that we've racialized classism, racism, people hating Black folks on sight, because I mean, anytime Vivek Ramaswamy can say that he's never seen white supremacy, it's just because he's got straight hair. He's darker, far darker than I. Because all phenotype matters. I mean, these people come here and play games. Only people in America, Dr. Gibbs, who cannot become white are Black people. Everybody else can pass into whiteness in a generation 2 or 3. They get exotic. Somebody just put in the chat line that Bob Barker was Native American. That's great, and Wayne Newton too. But they don't identify as Native Americans, and they didn't make it as Native Americans. They made it as white Americans. Let's be clear on that. They leaned into their whiteness in order to make it in America. That's real. Dr. Gibbs?
Well, in the case of Ramaswamy, one of the things, I mean, I agree with all of that. One thing I would add is that Ramaswamy is worth $600 million. And so, as I would see it, what he is about is a net worth of $600 million. And he's precisely the kind of person who's benefited from these types of divisions. And so denying that these divisions even exist when it's convenient for him anyway, I think it fits into his interests. And I would see, it's a very unfortunate thing, because I think Ramaswamy is very smart, but again, he's one of these people, I think, who uses his talents and will increasingly use his talents to make the country a worse place to live. So it's very unfortunate.
Well, yes, please go on. Go on.
Well, I consider Vivek a friend since I've met him twice, but he's doing a Borat routine. He's literally using information, analytics, and AI to find out if somebody just used nothing but right-wing talking points. There's no depth, no thought into it, just the talking points to percolate and trend on social media. If you just repeat those, could you indeed become the Republican nominee for president? That's what Chris Christie pointed out at the debate when he said, this is just Chat GPT, because that's exactly what Vivek Ramaswamy is doing. He doesn't actually believe anything that he's saying. This is very nihilistic. This is very Machiavellian in what he's doing. And I encourage people to watch his interview on Meet the Press yesterday, because it sounds like the machinations of an idiot, but he's not an idiot.
He's not an
Instead,
idiot.
Instead, it's simply he has done the research and he has found out that nobody cares if you know what you're talking about in foreign policy. Nobody cares if you have an economic policy that's even coherent. All that people care about is just being affirmed in what they think and what they believe already. And if you think about the last 40 plus years of Republican presidents, Ronald Reagan, they just took an actor and just told him, go pretend to be president. George W. Bush, you're the former president's son, so just go act like president. Donald Trump, you're the host of The Apprentice. Just go say you're fired a couple times. Tell some your mama jokes so you can be president. Vivek has correctly analyzed what the Republican Party has become over the course of the last 40 years and understands that he can literally ride this wave to the top. And every one of the Republican candidates is simply on this place of saying, I'm just going to wait for Trump to go to jail and be the alternative. And Vivek has decided that what is selling and what is marketable right now is just being the alternative to Trump. And nobody cares what you wrote a year ago or 5 years ago, or what you think or what you said on video or hypocrisy, those sorts of things. Just keep repeating the talking points and ride that wave of white cynicism all the way to the nomination and potentially to the White House.
The tragedy is, though, if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Remember, there was someone, I guess it was in 2015 or 2016, who kept saying, lock her up, lock her up. Remember that?
Yep.
Okay. Karma's a beast. Now the government is looking to lock him up. Vivek needs to watch it. And I would love to interview Vivek. I really would. And not in a hostile, I'm not hostile. Because I'm clear on the game that he's playing. I'm clear on the game that is played, particularly in his community, because he is a step or two away from whiteness. And that's the problem that's one of the problems I have with him. Because, just walking down the street at night, he could get hurt. But he doesn't understand that. For him to say, coming out of, really, he doesn't come from the Gandhian tradition, but he comes from those people. For him to say that white supremacy is a joke, that it doesn't exist, these are unicorns, are you serious? What he is doing is dangerous. I know he doesn't believe it. He's playing a lot of games. A lot of games too. People who know Trump know that Trump is a marketer, just like Vivek, and he went for the low-hanging fruit because Hillary had the traditional liberals and the traditional Democrats and most of the women, and Bernie got the progressives and the outliers. That's what people were toggling between. You remember Bernie and Trump. Who am I going to go with? Who's going to go to Washington and fight that fight for me? When Bernie was eliminated, they said, okay, I'll go to Trump. The rest did. But what Vivek is doing is so dangerous. And because he's got a very, very brown face, it makes it even worse. And he needs to be called on it. He needs to be called on it. The game that he is playing and placating this white racism that is getting us killed. This boy was going to walk up on this campus on Saturday. On a Saturday, you and I both went to black colleges. You know what a Saturday before classes begin, you know what that is like at Howard, at Clark, AU, please, AU Center. Goodness gracious, because it's AU, it's Clark, it was Morris Brown, it's Spelman, it's Morehouse. You got thousands of people teeming across that campus. He had planned to go there and take a lot of people out. And I am infuriated by that. And I'm so glad that... Yes, go on, please.
No, all I was going to say is we also need to find those security guards at Edward Waters and give them some kind of trophy.
Yes.
We have to acknowledge these people because those are the true heroes. God bless, and we pray for the families of those who died, and we hope that we can bring them comfort and justice. But for the individuals who threw that white supremacist off the campus and were able to stop him, but they perhaps saved hundreds, if not thousands, of lives that day. Because even beyond the people who were killed, the stampede that would have taken place of people trying to run to safety, we have to acknowledge them for what they've done. But also, as we said, Ron DeSantis going there and saying, well, or speaking out against us after you've been talking about black folks and CRT and fomenting all this anger and destruction and rage. The same with Trump and all the rest of these people. They are the leaders of this.
Absolutely.
And then to feign outrage and even when Vivek refuses to even say that this is about white supremacy, when the dang killer says he's a white supremacist, we have to understand the fight that we're in, that this is organized from the top down. They don't care how many black folks get killed. They're never going to they're never going to demonize their base. They see these white supremacists as their political base, and we need to understand that this is not lone wolf lone wolf psychological breaks. This is a planned terrorist attack against the community.
And Robert, we need to find out everybody who's still on with us. You need to know who their parents are. Who are these parents? Where do they live? What is the community? What is the community that bred them? This young man texted his daddy and said, go into my room, use a screwdriver. Use a screwdriver in your parents' house? Are you nuts? How are you raised? My parents didn't tolerate that. I could shut my door, but it better not be shut for long because it's their house. And it's not that they denied me privacy, but there's some things you don't do in a house because you're living with people and you're living on your parents' roof under their rules. I don't know how is it that these parents are breeding these children. Kyle Rittenhouse's mother drove him to shoot people. Dylan Roof, who's your mom and your daddy? Because they don't have a problem calling out black parents. Or black pathologies, as they put it, even though they made it illegal for black people to be married for a couple of 100 years. You for real? And have made it more difficult for us to get aid and be married. Remember, keep away from me, Mr. Welfare. Come on. We stop playing these games. and stop feeling inferior ourselves and call people out on this foolishness. Because you're right, Robert. Had this boy had his way, he would have slaughtered hundreds, if not thousands, of people. He had tactical gear. He went to a dollar store. No, he went to Edward Waters University. That's where he went. He went there to kill these kids.
Santita, can I jump in just one
I didn't know
last
you were
thing?
still there. Yes, honey. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Well, no, I just echo everything you said. I mean, this makes my heart hurt. You know, the reality is that he went to that university.
Yes,
He's putting on a bulletproof vest. He's putting on a bullet. Oh, you want us to believe that he just found a nice big parking lot to go change into his bulletproof vest? He had gloves on. He was getting ready to commit a crime called mass murder. So I think for us to somehow think that it was somehow a dollar store incident just begs the purpose. I mean, he wrote a manifesto. That is that comes from what's called the Communist Manifesto, by the way. It's their whole society, their whole way they do everything. And he said he wanted to kill black people. I mean, we can't ignore this. And I want to echo, one of the other panelists said this, and I apologize, I don't know who said it, but hate is taught. Hate is taught. And it's taught and it's tolerated. That's what bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
It is taught and tolerated. And so we've got to stop tolerating it. And you said it 10 times, and I'm going to tell you, you're right. Who is his mother and father? What did they allow to go on? Did they teach him this hatred? Did they tolerate it if he picked it up from somewhere else? Did he hide it from them? I mean, I don't know. But I know this. I thank goodness. I thank God, really, because he was going to kill a whole bunch of students. And this was going to be terrible.
Dave Slane,
it's already terrible.
I've met your beautiful children, okay? It is very clear that you love them, that you care for them, and that you've taught them. You and their mother. There are breaks that they have. Your son, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, all of that. Walking around with his little suit and tie at 14, 15. He learned that from someplace. When my brother Jesse was on his way to prison, he asked the judge to give any time that she might give to his wife, give it to me. Let me serve it. Because my brother was raised to be a man. I want to know who these people are. Not just your children. I want to know who Kyle Rittenhouse's mama is. And where is your daddy? Since you want to know where mine is. You're always asking black folks, where's the daddy? Even though you made it illegal for me to have a daddy and a mama. The original baby daddy is Thomas Jefferson. Are you serious? For real? But you don't make him that. Having all them black babies that white folks used to write about when they would go visit him when he was president or because he was so prominent in the country. Are you for real? Somebody needs to answer some questions for me, David.
It's okay to say, you know, the reason we have all these problems with the black youth is we have an absent black father. There's no guidance. Well, why don't we take that and turn it around and say, why do we have all these problems with young white men doing crazy things like this?
And let me tell you something.
I mean, if it's a good
do have black fathers.
If it's a good question.
The CDC.
If it's a good question for black.
The CDC showed you
right.
that from birth to age 5, the most involved parent and father in America is the black father. Please. Now, after that, there's a lot of stuff that happens between moms and dads and blah, 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 blah. But I just want to know what's going on here. And wait a minute, is Devin there? Oh, he said the sound, because somebody's telling me that the sound is out. Well, I think we've got to look at this, because I think that what happened there, what happened, losing 3 people is awful. But thinking about what could have happened on that campus, thank you for reframing that for us, David Slane. Just saying, wait. He didn't go to a dollar store. He went to the black college. He knew exactly what he was doing. The sheriff said, "Oh no, he had the rantings of someone who was off, but he was 100% lucid." That's what this guy said. The sheriff T.K. Waters said he was 100% lucid. He knew exactly what he was doing. And there are many other Ryan Palmeters and Kyle Rittenhouses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et al. Out here. And the young man who killed Trayvon Martin for walking down the street in his neighborhood. You ought to be sick of this. But pointing guns at each other, everybody's going to be dead. This is not the OK Corral. That is not what this is supposed to be. And we have to change our minds about being so violent.
I have to get off.
Well, I love you.
I have to get off now.
Say what you need to say before you go.
I look forward to getting with you again. I think that we have to look to Judge Chunkin to see what trial date she sets for Trump today.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, that's the January 6th, four counts. Only Donald Trump, he can be tried before Super Tuesday. I think it's important for us to keep an eye on that. My prediction is the cases will not be removed to federal court because the reality is nobody in their right mind believes it's part of a federal job to steal a state election and give fake electors and all the things that she's charging them with. It's not a federal case, if that's my prediction. But I think I sent you this a day or two ago. We need to take a look at the 14th Amendment and does it prohibit Donald Trump from being on the ballot? I think that we need to take a real look at that. It's serious. It's a serious issue, and I think we really need to take a look at it because Donald Trump's not going to stop. Even if convicted, he's not going to stop.
Well, I mean, but you had Eugene Debs who ran from prison, right? And it's always the leftists who are accused of treason, right? And that's what Eugene Debs was. I mean, but I'm not a lawyer. You are.
You got to be 35 years old. You have to be a citizen, a naturalized citizen of the United States, okay? And under the 14th Amendment, Section 3, and you cannot have taken an oath of office and been part of an insurrection, taken part in an insurrection or give aid or comfort to the same. I would argue to you, I sent you a link to that. Mm-hmm. There's a county commissioner that was removed from the ballot and is prohibited by the Supreme Court. I believe it's New Mexico. He can never run for office again. We need to do the same thing. Lawrence Tribe, who's the liberal constitutionalist from Harvard, says it fits. And also we got Judge Lutich, who was conservative judge. He says the same thing. We need to take a real look at it. Can we challenge these at the Secretary of State when they file the paperwork and say this man is ineligible? Hold a hearing, get him off the ballot. We got to take a real look at that stuff.
Well, let's do it tomorrow. Look at it. I'm
on. I'm with you. I'm with you. I feel that for the first time in my life, I feel like that we are at risk of losing our democracy. And I will be with you every day, all day, if that's what it takes.
Well, losing the republic, for sure. Because a democracy, we've been struggling to get there, right? And, we're not there yet. Oh, who? Did anyone say anything?
No, of course.
Who else is there? Attorney Jones? Anyone else still there? Anybody else want to say anything before we go?
I'm still
Reverend
here
Yeary? Okay.
listening.
Reverend Yeary?
Yeah. This guy ended up at the dollar store.
Mm-hmm.
It was his default spot. It says then that no place is safe if you're black in a Second Amendment America. It says to me that some time ago, the late Dr. Charles White, psychologist at UC Irvine, said that black folks have to live with a healthy sense of paranoia in order to function in America, just because of the schizophrenic way that America functions. That this notion that we still need a militia when we have the most expensive military in the world, that then reinforces this asinine idea that to keep the militia ready and armed, we need to have this proliferation of guns and ammunition and all of this that makes even public safety a theoretical proposal or proposition. is just problematic. I think this, when the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil, there are two things that contribute to the love of capitalism in the United States. One is the gun industry's contribution to the bottom line, and also our infatuation with sickness and death. So you've got 1/6 of GDP tied to making medications for illnesses that should not have ever existed because of the way we handle which communities get certain resources and access to certain things. When we consider how this, if we pull this thread, it's guns and ammunition to start. But I would then ask, now that you're taking the contributions of communities of color, the contributions of First Nation peoples out of the classroom, you are leaving then the false narrative and the paranoia of white supremacists as the core curriculum that then leaves that kind of foolishness unchallenged. I would almost go back and ask Governor DeSantis today, what say you about this? This is what's happening in your state. This is what was happening at an HBCU in your state, where you've canceled African American Studies as an AP course, where you've got rid of DEI, where you're talking about we're not going to deal with inclusion and opportunity for everybody. This is in yours, and you want to be president. So is this what we are to expect? If this is the microcosm of what we should see coming out of your state that you say is fighting wokeism, is this what is going to be the contaminant? Is this going to be the thing we shoot in our veins like Trump wanted us to shoot bleach in our veins to cure COVID? Is this the toxin we're going to get should you become president or someone like you? And I think to Robert Patillo's point, this notion that we no longer have to speak to issues in order to get some qualification to be on the ballot ought to scare the bejesus out of everybody. Because once upon a time, at least even in our own fiction, in the mythology of America, there used to be some baseline qualification that somebody had. At least you knew the nomenclature. You knew the phraseology of politics. Now it's soundbite and it's cliche. It's no longer the relevance. It's don't take my gun and get rid of DEI, and you can be president of the United States. And as president of the United States, you become, because of so much that the United States enforces in terms of being one of the original five, having veto power at the UN. Just think about how this leaven, as we take it into other spaces and places, then contaminates not only what happens here, but what happens around the world. This is not something we want the world to catch. And the greatest antidote for this foolishness is a healthy turnout at every election. I know folks say, well, the voting ain't going to change it. Oh, look, voting will change it. Oh, absolutely it will. Because the only reason we find ourselves here is because DeSantis got elected. Trump got elected. You've got the foolishness in Arkansas now where Trump's former press secretary, her dad was governor. Now she's governor. We got a family tradition of generational ignorance being passed around like it's candy in America. And if we don't deal with it and educate the masses to be able to respond responsibly and civically, then basically what we have done is we've conceded to the fact that we don't mind catching whatever's going around.
Reverend Dr. Uri has spoken. Boom. And guess what Governor Kemp in Georgia said? If you give anybody a voting machine, they can hack it. So where do you think he lines up in this?
Look, he's the trump card, pun intended, because he still has not indicated what he might do as these things unfold. And the October date is now looming for this new commission that can remove prosecutors for failing to do, quote unquote, their job. The legislature and the governor, this commission can do it. That is a scary proposition, but it's being used to intimidate prosecutors around the country, even in places where they don't have commissions, the mere specter of it. They came after Marilyn Mosby with a ferocity and brought her up on federal charges that are just so asinine you can't even believe it. They came at Kim Fox. They ran Kim Gardner out of office. Just kept coming at her over and over and over again. And this was not all. This wasn't all just like white Republicans. Some of these were black folks in the system.
Some.
These. It's the craziest thing that you could ever see, and they're going to come after Bonnie Willis. You might as well bank on. And so we got to be ready to come to her. We got to come, hold up her arms, be her firewall, defend the fact that she has used the utmost of prosecutorial integrity. And I fight with prosecutors all the time. That's what I do. But at the end of the day, she has done something that has been so intentional. She didn't go with the fast timeline. It took her longer than what she initially thought it would take because she wanted to be so meticulous about due process until now it is set up where folks are really trying to figure out how do they unring this bell? Because when this is all said and done, even though they may come after her, unless they are able to get another prosecutor in that will pull the state charges, they're going to end up with something that they're not soon going to be able to undo because Bonnie Willis has operated with such integrity and credibility that it's going to amaze some and offend others. But at the end of the day, I think she's going to come out ahead.
But so did Kim Fox. She has been absolutely integrous. When these people decide that they want to come for you, they do. And you might not have any integrity. There was a guy who was having challenges in the U.S. Congress as my brother's issues came up. And you know what? He outright stole about $3 million. They didn't do anything to it. And when we asked, well, is there any way that we can restore the money that you said that Jesse did not steal? Any money that you raised, if you leave office, it all goes to you. They said, no, they didn't want any of it. All those moose heads that they were talking about, Todd, he still has them. They wanted to make sure that he could not vote again and that he was not going to be in Congress. It's like, come on, y'all, really? That's why I look at this stuff.
They didn't want the moose head. They wanted his head.
Do you understand what I'm saying? They wanted his daddy's head. Okay, now, but you'll do.
Mm-hmm.
We want to cut you off because we don't mind the Bushes and the imperialists going forward, but civil rights, no, we don't want another generation of that. Think about it. How is it that they're able to go forward generation after generation after generation?
This is America.
Well, it's also this world order. That's why I look at Robert Kennedy and go, oh no, he's been in this a minute. He has seen some things. And he has gone after these intelligence communities. He knows they killed his daddy. He knows they killed his uncle. He's been talking about it. But y'all don't want to talk about him. You don't want to talk to him. I mean, really? And then you're not going to give him Secret Service protection with the history that his family have had? They killed his daddy, for heaven's sake. The powder burns were on Robert Kennedy's suit, in his back. Sirhan was in front of him. The kill shot was over his ear. Not over his ear, it was behind his ear. Powder burns there too. The person was behind him. Are you serious? And y'all want to play this political game with this man's life? I'm disgusted. When will you stop? When y'all gonna grow up in your politics? When you gonna grow up spiritually? When you gonna do that? Just stop. This boy went to that campus to try and kill all those black babies, kill all those black dreams. That's what he meant to do. And I need to know who this boy's mama and daddy are. I want to know what the hate that hate produced. Remember that was the documentary on the television special on Malcolm X. Now I want to know the hate that hate produced. Tell me about that. Y'all never want to do a documentary on that because you expose the culture. And you got some brave white people who come out here, Dave Slane, David Gibbs, who say, hey, y'all, this is what we're looking at. Frank Watkins, God rest his soul. They say, hey, this is what we're looking at. We need to grow up, everybody. This is what we're looking at. He did not go to a dollar. He ended up at the dollar store. He went to Edward Waters College to kill all these black kids who were his age and younger. Because he knows what HBCUs produce. Dr. King was not produced by PWI. He was produced by an HBCU. Reverend Jesse Jackson was not produced by PWI. He was produced by an HBCU. We can keep on going. And no, D-Ray, I don't want to run for mayor or governor of Illinois. No. And somebody said I overslept today. No, I didn't actually. But bless your heart. Thank you for being concerned about my health. But no, I don't want to do I don't see that as my role. I don't feel like I've been called to do that. I really don't. And I appreciate your even asking. I'm honored that you'd even think enough of me to want me to represent you. No, I haven't heard that one.
All right, Santita, I got to pretend I'm going to be a lawyer on TV today.
You're not going to
got to get ready for trial tomorrow.
You're going to go on and do that. You're going to do that thing, and I love it. Is anyone else still there? I don't know who might be there. Robert? He might be.
Patillo and Reverend Erie.
Robert Patillo?
Oh, sorry, I was making eggs.
Oh, honey, well, you make those eggs, but you give me some closing thoughts. Because boy, when I think about this young man going to Edward Waters, it just makes me ill.
Well, I think for me, we have to understand that this is organized. I can't repeat that enough. This is just look at what happened in Buffalo and look at what happened in Jacksonville. It is the same shooting. It is the same MO. It is the same operative set of facts. These are young men who have been radicalized online, who have been given thousands of dollars worth of armament and equipment and ammunition, who both were wearing bulletproof vests, who used the exact same loadout of weapons, and went and crossed county lines, went looking for black people. These weren't black people that were nearby them. They went to hunt them. The same with Dylan Roof. He didn't have the body armor. He was the 1.0. He was the prototype. They realized, well, you probably going to need to armor up now. So whoever is behind this and coordinating this, we have to investigate that. Don't let these people tell us that these are just lone wolf people who are having psychological breakdowns. And we need to get to the bottom of that. And if people don't think that this is connected to that Donald Trump mugshot, and people don't think this is connected to the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, and people don't think this is connected to Emmett Till, they're being ignorant and obsequious and when it comes to understanding American history. And if this is how they act after the Trump mugshot and arrest, what are they going to do when the Trump is convicted and taken into custody? So we need to start planning for that. We need to make sure our state, local, and national officials have a plan in place. We need to start asking our city councils, what are their plans in case of those situations? Well, hope is not a strategy. And we need to have more than just hope when it comes to dealing with these threats going forward, because the targets are black people. These people are being hunted because of their race. And if it's in Buffalo one day, if it's in Charleston another day, if it's in Jacksonville the next day, there's nothing stopping it from being Chicago or Atlanta or Baltimore or anywhere else.
Let's be clear. Hope keeps you moving forward. Hope is what you need in the face of the world telling you no, in the face of the world telling you that you cannot make it. You need hope. But faith without works is dead. You got to work. I tell you, there's nothing more insulting to me, Robert, than when I hear people saying, I heard this woman say, well, she, bless her heart, she didn't mean any harm. Because one of those who was killed was her grandson's father. And she said, I thought racism was over, but I guess not. Where'd you get that idea? Then I hear people who call in and say, we've made no progress. That is not true. That's a lie. We've made a lot of progress. We're not still on the plantations. Well, not actually. No, Jim Crow is officially over, at least on paper. Absolutely. And it took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and death for that to happen. Now, Martin Luther King ran his leg. Vernon Johns ran his leg of the race. Andy Young has run his leg. Jesse Jackson has run his leg. What you gonna do? I didn't say, what are you going to do? I said, what you gonna do? These people have run their legs of the race. And they have gotten us here. Now we need to get over there. Now you need to get to work. It's that simple. Get to work. There are many more legs of this race to be run. Now do your part. People are asking Reverend, what else is he going to do? He is in a wheelchair with Parkinson's, but he's going to do everything he can until he gets out of here. What are you going to do? And he can't stop because he sees all the work that has to be done. And he's eager to talk to you and share with you. And this is what we got to do. I got to keep strategizing. You need to get up off of your roughy duff and go to work. They blew Dr. King's neck off. He was 39. God gave Reverend time. They gave him more time than you gave any civil rights leader in modern history. And it's still not enough. And you don't want to work. Work. Go to work. Get involved in some organization. Get registered to vote. Get your children registered to vote. Make sure that the people in their schools are registered to vote. Get involved. And work with other people, because working by yourself, it never works that way. Want to go somewhere fast? Go by yourself. If you want to go somewhere if you want to go far, you need to go with a group. Haven't you noticed that lynchings, pardon me, don't happen when people are alone? They come as one, as a group. But when we got our right to freedom, we came as a group too. And it was a bigger group. And it was a group with soul force. Do the work. Get involved. Calling into a radio show is great. But get involved. Come over to Rainbow Push on Saturdays. Get involved. Call Push before you need Push to keep your job or get you a job. You need advocates. And advocates need to keep the doors open. Get involved. Listen to Robert's show on the radio. He needs ratings. He needs support. Give it to him. Otherwise, his voice will be stilled. Don't let that happen. And you got to keep him free so he can say what it is that needs to be said. And I'd say that about Tavis and everybody else. Get involved and give the people who support you, give them the support. They need it. We all need it. I need it. We need it. Please. Just remember, that boy went to a black college. That was the target, not the dollar store. He went to a black college, but the security would not let him in. He went to kill a lot of young black people on Saturday. He knew exactly what he was doing. The sheriff said, no, he had the meanderings of a madman in his manifesto. But you know what? He was 100% lucid. He knew exactly what he was doing. He might have been mentally ill, but he wasn't crazy. I'm not going to let you get away with that. He wasn't crazy. He was of sound mind. He's just a sick man. Because the first law that he has violated is that of love. It doesn't say love black people, white people, red people, yellow people. What it said, love. God made everybody, and nobody's superior to anyone. I love you, everybody. Robert Patillo, I love you, honey. Thank you so much for being with me today, because I know you are big. And I love all of you. And so God bless you. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. And it's WAOK, Jewel. WAOK. That's right. So love you. And I will see you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. The Santita Jackson